Hey gang, Jake here. Indie games have a fascinating way of creating new experiences by merging two genres into one creative mix. It's like chocolate and peanut butter. When you take two genres that people love, you can accentuate what makes them both great to create a really memorable experience. So, what does that have to do with Fraymakers? Well, being a game that's so closely tied to the legacy of Super Smash Bros., the game and the development team clearly have a lot of material to pull inspiration from in terms of content, and their ability to experiment and put an indie spin on these modes means they've got a ridiculous amount of potential. For instance, let's talk about Smash Run, a well-beloved mode in Smash 4 that sadly felt muted in odd ways, and how fusing it with Battle Royale mechanics could create a super entertaining experience. Before we begin, I want to clarify that I don't honestly expect anything like this from Fraymakers, and you shouldn't either. Based on the fact that single-player modes and rollback netcode got the same amount of screen time in the initial trailer, I think it's safe to say that McLeod is focused on providing an entertaining, competitive experience first and foremost, and more casual content isn't going to be a priority. I'm fine with that, and it's perfectly understandable, but it means that a massive casual mode like this has basically a 0% chance of happening. This is just intended to be a fun thought experiment for how we can build on the concepts presented in Smash 4's original mode, and how an indie spin could improve the general idea. With that out of the way, let's get into it. First off, let's discuss what Smash Run is. Essentially, it's a mode in Smash 4 on the 3DS, in which up to 4 players are placed in a large map full of enemies to fight and challenges to conquer. Each player's goal is to fight as many enemies and conquer as many challenges as possible, in order to obtain stat boosts and special attacks for use in the final battle. This final battle varies in a number of possibilities, such as a straight-up brawl, a race, a test to see who can kill the most enemies, and a climbing contest. It's a lot of fun, but there's a couple of issues. For instance, the different finales aren't really all that fun. Other than a bona fide fight, they're pretty anticlimactic, and that's kinda lame. Second, the maps aren't actually connected. It's impossible to run into another player in this mode, and that's disappointing. I want to be able to throw down in the middle of resource gathering. So, with all that in mind, our objective for this pitch will be to A. Fix the issues with and modernize Smash Run for PC and Nintendo Switch, B. Integrate elements of Battle Royale games, and C. Make the mode feel tied to Fraymakers' core gameplay. With all that said, let's get into it. So first off, let's talk about the map we'll use. In Fraymakers, it makes sense to use a massive map that's an amalgamation of a bunch of different worlds, for the sake of referencing as much as possible. But I think I'd prefer if one single game was represented in the Fray Royale map. And I'm choosing The Island from Ark Survival Evolved. Full disclosure, I haven't actually played Ark, but I wanted an environment with a high biodiversity and a relatively small area. And when I asked the McLeod Discord about that, The Island was recommended. Plus, I think the setting of an island lends well to the Battle Royale vibes. Players would each start in the random corner of the map, but as the match goes on, an occupiable space would start to shrink, forcing players to compete more. As far as core gameplay goes, the primary objective is still to get stat boosts and power-ups, but in the context of Fraymakers, we kinda already have power-ups in the form of assists, so that'd be the focus this time around. Stronger enemies would carry assists, and by defeating them, a player would earn the ability to use them in both the prep phase and the battle phase. They'd be tied to the D-pad, so a player could carry 4 at once, but they'd be a one-time use, so you'd always want to make sure you were fully stocked. Next, let's talk about the rules. There's 2 phases, prep and battle. The majority of the game is prep, and that's the time you'll be spending on running around, fighting things, and getting stat boosts and stuff. I think making this time customizable could be handy, but a useful baseline would be about 5 minutes, since that's how long you get in Smash Run. After that, you'd enter the battle phase, which is the actual final battle to decide the winner. It's exactly what you'd expect, and you can choose which arena you want to handle it on. It's mostly just a normal match plus a bunch of modifiers. Now I want to talk about the connected map, and how players would interact. Whenever 2 or more players get close enough, a blast zone would form around them, and they'd be forced to fight it out. Assuming a player walks in on 2 mid-fight, they can hop in afterwards, but they can be killed too. Dying during the prep phase wouldn't mean you're done, you'd just respawn at a save point. but all your stat increases would be cut in half and you'd lose 2 of your assists. The surviving player can pick these stat boosts and assists up and use them later on, so it's very important to win these fights. Lastly, let's talk about the references, because ultimately, that's all some of us are here for. There's plenty of basic enemies throughout indie games that'd be great fun to see in a mode such as this, but we've already been talking for a ridiculous amount of time, so let's make this quick with a lightning round. The Uber Kids from Pico, the Bulletkin from Enter the Gungeon, the Slimes from Crypt of the Necrodancer, the Burnflingers from Hades, the Tinkerbats from Shantae, the Abyss from Rivals, the Top Bats from Henry Stickmin, the Wolfmen from Bloodstain, the Colossus from One Step from Eden, the Dramos from Kamiko / a bunch of other Skipmore games, Bloons from Bloons Tower Defense, the Egrets from Skullgirls, the Propeller Rats from Shovel Knight, the Pinzotron from Crosscode, the One Concern from Iconoclasts, the Imposter from Among Us, the Robo-Squid from Freedom Planet, the Mutant Muds from Mutant Muds, the Xenorg from Stardrop, Santa from Long Live Santa, the Trash Gang from Five Nights at Freddy's, the Oni from Randy Ronin, and these music demon thingies from Unbeatable. And some others, which I definitely acknowledge would be cool, but I can't name off the top of my head because it's 3:07 a.m. as I'm writing this, and I'm legally too burned out to think. While this is definitely an unnecessary waste of resources for a project like this, I think it could be a hell of a lot of fun if executed properly. As per usual, I want to thank you all for watching this video. I still plan on making more, but this video in particular was difficult because I straight up did not know what I wanted to talk about. If you enjoyed it, please consider the standard YouTube stuff, like, subscribe, Twitter, bell, etc, etc. Also, side note, I want to show you this cool art I got drawn. I've officially been doing this for a year now, and I wanted to celebrate, so I had Kaizo Arts on Twitter draw this for me. I think it's pretty cool, and I'll link his Twitter in the description. I'll see you guys later. Peace out.